The golden age of Hollywood was a time between the 1920s to the 1960s when the studio system ruled. The films made during this time were some of the most innovative and timeless ever made, and still influence films to this day. When the term classic movies is mentioned, this period is what people are referring to. For this video, I will also be referring to movies made pre-1990 to include the resurgence of original filmmaking in the 1970s as well. Some people scoff when I mention how much I enjoy the classic black and white films. Now, I'm not here to bash post-millennial movies. I've enjoyed quite a few, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Departed, and The Hurt Locker. I will preface this video by saying I'm not a filmmaker or an educated movie critic, but just a guy who loves movies and have watched thousands of all kinds over the years. I especially have a passion for the classic films of the golden age. My goal with this video and the channel is to get another generation interested in these classic movies so they can appreciate them and pass that love down to their families and loved ones in the future. I had come up with almost 30 reasons why you should watch classic movies, but narrowed them down to what I think are the 7 main influential points. So, without further ado, one of the main reasons I love classic movies is because they were simple. They take us back to a time when life and the world was much simpler. These films didn't try to shock the audience as much as today's movies try to do. At that time, less was more because it didn't try as hard. To me, it made these films more meaningful. Up until the end of World War II, the world was a much bigger and more fascinating place. Many people would never get the chance to visit other countries and experience other cultures, so the cinema offered that brief glimpse into an exotic world that was so different from the viewer's everyday life. Simple movies can sometimes be the most honest, most powerful, most gut-wrenching, as well as the most thought-provoking. Here are 3 examples of fantastic movies with simple stories that were made into timeless classics.
Mouse, cat and mouse. Which is the cat and which is the mouse? Enough of that.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
The dialogue in the old classic films was better because it had to be. There was no CGI, so they had to keep the story interesting by using dialogue, not special effects, to move the plot along. The writing was arguably more intelligent, with witty and charming banter. The characters were more iconic and memorable. A lot of the scripts could be considered works of art and dealt with a wide variety of subjects, from romance to war, from crime to inspirational, and everything in between. But the end goal was always fun and entertainment, as well as sweeping the audience away to a world they might never experience. To me, many classic movies have more depth and richness than modern movies, mainly due to the level of detail in the scripts. One issue I've noticed in current movies is that the dialogue is either mumbled or drowned out entirely by music and sound effects. You won't have that issue in the older classic movies because dialogue was crucial. Now, this reason kind of ties into the next one. Classic movies had to rely heavily on the skills of the actors, which ties into my previous point about the script due to the lack of technology. Therefore, bad actors equals bad movie. No matter how great the script was, bad actors could ruin it. Hollywood studios would discover a talented but inexperienced young male or female actor, sign them to long-term contracts, train them on their personas, and usually have them taught by an acting coach and also be an understudy or an apprentice to a more experienced actor. They would learn their craft in small roles until the studio felt they were ready to make the big jump to a starring role. A perfect example is Marilyn Monroe. Of course, there were some actors who had natural talent and didn't need much grooming, like Marlon Brando, James Stewart, Henry Fonda, and Lauren Bacall. Older movies, for the most part, were about the art of filmmaking and telling a story. They offer a huge contrast to today's blockbuster flicks with the blitzkrieg marketing and merchandising strategy. Most of the advertising was by word of mouth. For example, when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in 1981, All of my friends were talking about it, saying you have got to go see this movie. It's incredible. We had no idea what it was about, didn't see a trailer, and my friends and I saw it in a packed theater, and the mystery and excitement of not knowing what to expect blew us away. Now you pretty much know everything about the movie before you even see it. Due to censorship restrictions, the older classics had to invent new and clever ways to tell a story, like different camera angles, lighting, being scary without graphic blood and gore, hinting at sex without showing it, and limiting on-screen kiss time. Due to the lack of technology, you can watch these movies to discover how new techniques were invented that are still being used in today's movies. One example is characters leaving the frame, making the audience a fly on the wall. Another method was the Dutch angle or tilt. This makes the audience uncomfortable or off balance. And another example is a deep depth of field. This draws attention to the environment and makes the environment a character. Classic movies offer us a time capsule into the past. Many people consider older classic movies, especially black and white, boring and outdated. However, many film school instructors require students to study these films as historical examples to see how things were in these various decades. For example, a film like Casablanca that was made in the 40s by people in the 40s about the 40s will show you how world events like World War II influenced the plot, the characters' thoughts, and values. The film also gives us insight into actual news events and how people lived during that time. A movie made in 2021 about events in the past by people who didn't live then will not have the same feel or impact and will be influenced by their current values and thoughts. So if you are into history, classic movies can give you a great window into the past, giving you an idea of what it was like for your ancestors to live in these times. This viewpoint can also be tied in with the next one, which is, nostalgia can be looked at in two ways: a historical nostalgia and a type for your own individual past. Historical nostalgia relates to the actual historical events that can be learned from, giving value as they are rewatched by current and future generations. Individual nostalgia is usually triggered from watching a movie that was a tradition, for example, watching It's a Wonderful Life with your family as a kid during Christmas. Every time you watch it, the film can evoke emotions and memories of your personal nostalgia. In my opinion, what makes a movie a timeless classic is one that can elicit an emotion every time you watch it, whether it be fear, happiness, love, whatever, or it will make you think and question long after the movie is over. Unfortunately, most of today's films are forgotten 5 minutes after they are over. Most of the visionary directors of the Golden Age had a voice and used movies as a way to communicate to audiences about what they had to say. They developed innovative camera techniques and relied on story and dialogue to deliver their message. Some of the most influential filmmakers in history were Orson Welles, John Huston, Alfred Hitchcock, Frank Capra, John Ford, Stanley Kubrick, to name a few. And then the new wave of directors from the 70s like Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, and De Palma. There has been a few talented directors to come along since then, like the Coen brothers, David Fincher, Christopher Nolan, but they are starting to get older. It seems to me most of the young directors now are more concerned with fame and money, or even worse, want to lecture us instead of entertain. Some of them want to be the next Spielberg or Scorsese, but I'm not seeing a lot of originality. I know imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but at least try doing something different instead of remaking someone else's movie. One good thing you can say about the classic movies in the old studio system is that there were no sequels, no franchising, and no merchandising solely as a cash grab. They were original movies that stood by themselves and still do as timeless classics. Thanks for watching, everyone. Some of you may agree or disagree with my opinions, so I would like to read your comments on why you love classic movies in the section below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and share with your friends. Also, if you've subscribed, click the little bell icon for notifications. Until next time.
Adios, amigo!